Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the new Conservative faction, Liz Truss's popular conservatism group, which seems to be both horrifying and comical in equal share. But as we once thought the same of Donald Trump, we should probably take them seriously. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel. So Liz Truss has organised a convention for her new far-right misfits. Her new group, Popular Conservatism. I've talked about this in the past. It's basically the dictionary definition of an oxymoron. And it's been shortened to PopCon, perhaps in some desperate attempts to appeal to a younger audience. Also a fairly blatant attempt by Liz Truss and allies to pitch for the Conservative leadership after the election. That's what today was about for them. As I've said in the past, those who want to replace Sunak cannot wait for the election to be over and for him to resign. They have to start good and early. All three of the Tory MPs who made it to the final stages of the leadership contest to replace Boris Johnson, Rishi Sunak, Penny Mordaunt and Liz Truss herself, had all been positioning themselves and gathering support over half a year before he resigned. Every single one of them. The same applies here as well. The eventual replacement for Rishi Sunak is already making their pitch for leader. Liz Truss wants to come back, and she's getting in nice and early. She's been attempting this for over a year now as it happens. It's just that her attempts so far have fallen somewhat flat. And to highlight her push, I've seen reports of a young Tory parliamentary candidate, Mary Fraser, speaking at the event, being platformed by a group of Tory MPs such as Liz Truss, Jacob Rees-Mogg, Priti Patel, in attacking their own party's policies in election year. Now, who does that? As a senior politician, as a senior Tory MP, who does that? Holds a convention to platform parliamentary candidates to attack their own party's policies. If anyone imagined that the Tories were going to pull together just for the election at least before picking up their infighting afterwards, this convention may dispel that notion. The various groups on the far right know that they gain an advantage over their One Nation colleagues in campaigning so early on. The One Nation Conservative MPs are all getting behind Sunak out of a sense of party loyalty. They must know by now he's steering them the wrong way, but they're thinking, well, it's better to be united than not. We're stuck with him. But it means they have no time at all to set out their stall after the election. And they'd need to set that stall out to a party membership who's already more aligned with the far right than with them. But in platforming this young candidate, Liz Truss is doing more than just trying to widen the appeal of her cause. She's actively trying to drum up future support. I've said before, the leadership contest to come, the one after the election, after Rishi Sunak has to resign, is not about current Tory MPs. Many of those are either stepping down, there's another one announced as stepping down today, Kwasi Kwarteng, or they're going to lose their seats involuntarily. It's not the likes of Lee Anderson who's going to determine the future direction of the Tory party. He'll be gone, desperately pleading for GB News not to cancel his show. It will be the Tory MPs who remain or are newly elected later this year. There are a lot of Tory MPs stepping down in seats that are winnable. So if their replacements win them, you've got a load of new Tory MP, maybe not a load of them. That may be a relative term, but there'll be a significant number of new Tory MPs and they will get a say in who's the next leader. The reason why Liz Truss became a serious contender to replace Boris Johnson, a contest she won to the ruin of those who voted for her, is because she spent months before Johnson ever resigned, months building up support with posh dinners and tea room chats. So it makes sense to suppose she's doing likewise now. Whether she intends to retake the leadership for herself or just wants to promote an ally, she definitely wants the next leader to be her faction. So it would make absolute sense for her not to chase after the support of current Tory MPs who are doomed to be on the outside of Parliament after the election, but to appeal to those still standing in very safe seats, but also candidates with a good chance of winning in a seat where the current incumbent is stepping down. So at face value, the idea of getting some of these candidates to speak at a loony convention makes sense. Make them feel important. take them under your wing so you can count on their support when they enter Parliament. Because as soon as they enter Parliament, they're straight into an election. You know, so then you look at this particular one, Mary Fraser. Is she a good bet? See, the huge YouGov MRP poll published last month shows that her intended constituency of Epsom and Ewell, Southerners are going to tell me I pronounced that wrong, never mind, will be tricky. It currently has the Conservatives and Lib Dems tied on 32% of vote share. Now, we know that the Conservatives are reliant on lots of don't knows turning out to vote for the Conservatives during the election itself, which this MRP cannot account for. So that might boost the Tory vote a bit, and that might be how the Tories win this seat. However, the same MRP poll has Labour on 22% of the vote. Now, another thing MRP polls do not take into account is tactical voting. We're expecting a lot of tactical voting this year, which should net both Labour and the Lib Dems a significant number of extra seats. And if polling suggests this contest will be tight, as it is doing, but that the Lib Dems are best placed to challenge the Tories, then you've got a greater than average level of tactical voting. And based on this poll, I'd be minded to make the Lib Dems favourites. Still, it is a winnable seat for the Tories, and Truss will absolutely want to be targeting not just existing MPs, but realistic candidates for support nice and early. You know, you can see it, can't you? The election's over, Sunak goes to the palace to tell the king he's resigning because the public handed him his arse, then resigns as Conservative leader as well. No time for a sober analysis of the election results. No time to conduct a 2-month survey to find out what were the specific issues that caused them to lose support. People like Truss will want to be straight into the contest to replace him because she's already worked on her support base, including potentially some of the brand new MPs who for some reason will be flattered by the attention shown to them by the most humiliated Prime Minister this country has had since Anthony Eden. That's what I think this is about. Because as a convention to promote their ideas, it was incredibly weak. First of all, I mean, they're actively arguing against their own party's position. Do that after the election when you want to blame that position, not now. You had Jacob Rees-Mogg banging on about ideas to turn us into a fascist dictatorship. But Liz Truss herself, her own speech, she said, Britain is full of secret conservatives, people who agree with her but don't want to admit it. Now, that's a fairly explicit statement that their conservatism is not remotely popular. Whoever heard of someone not wanting to admit support for something that was popular? If it was popular, why would you be secret? But to be fair, this is the same person who thought that barking dogs was good for scaring off drones. Nobody ever accused her of making sense. But despite the hapless oafs running the show, this group could still be a worry. It might be fronted by political numpties for now, but there's plenty of interest around it. Nigel Farage was sniffing around. The media will be giving it a lot of credibility. Essentially what's happening is Liz Truss is trying to round up the far right. At the moment, they're split into multiple factions, all scattered and leaderless. That's why they can't organise anything. They tried to organise a rebellion over the Rwanda bill. Didn't happen. They're too divided. The election is going to take out a number of their prominent members, meaning that some of those factions are going to get wiped out. Truss is aiming to make sure she is the big dog of the far right. She may be insane, but she has been in politics for a long time, and she's a much cannier operator than many of her peers. You know, she messed up as Prime Minister, not because she didn't know how to put together a support base, but because she's a cartoon-level lunatic. She still became Prime Minister. I imagine she'd burn herself out in opposition, whether as leader or just influential member of the parliamentary party. But this group she's assembling, that could end up with more intelligent evil running it in time. So it will need watching. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.